we organized this session so that we can raise awareness of the importance of this topic, which is mentoring and coaching, the role they play in owning one's own development. And for that, we have a very special guest. He is Femi Akindaji. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, Femi. Femi, welcome. Femi is very special because a lot of people don't know that Femi has been my mentor and still continues to be. If I have any questions, any doubts, I always check with him, bounce ideas. So it's really a nice journey, and I hope that a lot of your insights you can share with us, with our audience and our change makers who are very young doing very good projects. I'll just introduce you very briefly to our audience. So Femi is a people leader with a very strong background with innovation, pioneering, and entrepreneurial skills. He is a risk management executive, a chartered accountant, and transformation specialist with banking and regulatory experiences across 2 continents, previously with organizations such as Citi, UBS, BNP Paribas, and Union Bank. Over the past 2 decades, he has led various pivotal risk management initiatives and has held risk oversight leadership positions as well. As a technical specialist at the Financial Conduct Authority, he recommended firms with novel business models for U.S. banking license approvals and served as co-chair for its social mobility network. Femi holds a MSc in Financial Decision Management from the University of Bedfordshire and is an EMCC Global accredited professional coach with a level 5 qualification with distinction from BPP London. He has contributed over 100 hours as an internal coach with significant results and has mentored numerous young professionals like myself in their career and vision development. Wow. Welcome, Femi. We're really excited to have, hosting you here for this session.
Thank you, Lebona. Thank you, everyone, for joining. It's a privilege and an honor to be with you today. And I must commend you, Lemola, that this is an initiative that I think, seeing it live and in success is really, really proud, of it. So well done. And I hope we have a great conversation this afternoon.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. So,
Thank you.
Femi, will start by asking you to tell us a little bit about yourself. I know I covered the professional aspect of your life, which I think is only a snapshot. You can never, read through a biography and share details of how much a person has achieved. Please tell us a little bit about yourself and what inspired you to explore this area of work. Feel free to choose between your professional experience in the financial services industry, as well as a mentor and a coach.
Thank you. I mean, that's a challenging question because of the duration of time. But I'm going to try thinking about the audience that we have or we are likely going to have, or people that might be interested, in this topic, either now or later to watch. The question I ask is, what's interesting
Mm.
across my journey that I'm willing to share with people? And I think few things. So I think the first thing is started very young. So when people see me and I tell them how many years I've been in banking, they are very like shocked and amazed to say how you done that. So the journey started very, very long time ago. I remember I qualified as a chartered accountant immediately after school. My first job, the executive director that was about to sign off on my employment told me because I was at the final stage of my professional qualification at the time. And he told me, look, I'm not going to give you a job. Go back, finish your accountancy qualification, and then come back and start the work. And he was so impressed to say that a lot of people go through school, but they don't look up to say what is after school. So it's only after graduation they start to think, oh, what am I going to do now? I have time. What am I going to do? What kind of job? What kind of career am I going to go into? So actually, by the time, even before you get into uni, you should be thinking about life after uni. You should be thinking about what are the things, that should add value to you after uni and will help you in the employment sector. And I want to say that the industry is so competitive now, much more than when we started.
Yes.
So it was important then, and I imagine it's more important now. So anyway, fast forward, my first job, second job, I decided actually I want to have a new experience. I'm coming to the UK. I want to have a master's degree. And one thing led to the other. I was privileged. I was able to do that. But then, throughout my master's degree, take a part-time job in one of the bureaucracy, and that really gave me an different experience, to what banking looked like. I knew, the work ethic, that is in the UK, how performance, is driven, at a very high level. And when I finished my master's, it was a decision: do I stay? Do I go back home? Which I think is a
Yes.
decision that a lot of people struggle with some point. In my case, I got a job, but at
Mm.
the end of the day, it didn't work out. We don't have time to go into that story today. But eventually, I went back home. But I would say that going back home was a mixed feeling, right? Because I wanted to stay, I couldn't stay. I wanted to go back home. Now I'm home. What do I do? But I think that that was one of the pivotal time within my career because fortunately I got employed with Citibank.
Mm.
Like Citibank, I got into risk management, and that was actually what I would say the real start of my professional journey. So from there, one thing led to the other. Work with a lot of investment banks, and fast forward. I came back to the UK at some point on the highly skilled migrant program. Did a lot of banking with structured finance, investment finance. And then in 2013, one thing led to the other, I decided to go back home again. At that time, many people told me I was crazy, which which it was but that experience gave me a different flavor to risk management, which is transformation and the use of technology to actually improve processes and to
Mm.
improve productivity in a bank. So I was privileged to roll out an online real-time application within risk management for this organization. And I did that for about 5 years. I was time to come back to the UK, where I decided again to get something different, which is regulatory experience. It was like taking a pay cut, but the experience is very, very valuable. I was exposed to how banks work end to end, from the first line, the second line to the third line, how the technology work, how finances are handled, how the senior managers make decisions and the kind of qualifications and experience that they need to have. So that was really, really good experience. And it was when I was there, I was fortunate to, among many other leadership training that I've attended, I was paired with an executive director. Wow. In terms of mentoring and
Mm.
coaching, I think this is where possibly we might get into that conversation. But while I was paired with him, it was different, the kind of question he was asking me, right? And there were questions that I really couldn't run away from. There were questions that make you think
Yes.
about, what exactly is the issue? What exactly are you running away from? Why are things not working? And it wasn't helping like a mentor would do to just give you a solution, so you have to do the hard work um, and think really about that. So that was the first introduction that I had to coaching. And I'm like, okay, this kind of question, how do I learn to fix them? I've been mentoring a lot of people all through my career before that time. I have an organization that trains people, voluntarily, and I mentor a lot of young people. But at that point, I knew that there was more. And there is another alternative way to actually help people, to be more productive and more accountable. That was my introduction to coaching. Fast forward, I registered to be trained as a coach. I finished my apprenticeship with the UK BPP London. And here am I today. I think from then till now, I have over 100 hours of coaching, which has been very interesting. Currently, I combine that with my daily, job as an internet coach. But it's a good experience for me so far.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing your journey. I think if I were to dilute your entire career and sort of give a message to people listening to us today, what I take away is keep an open mind, and there isn't a linear path to success. So, so Femi, um, I think some of us are more familiar with the word mentor. Unfortunately, a lot of people who need mentors don't know that they should be reaching out. That's not the infrastructure in many countries. And before I came to you, every time I heard the word coach, I used to think about the coaches on the football field. So please tell us the difference between a mentor and a coach, or mentoring and coaching.
Yeah, I mean, there are two words that people sometimes use interchangeably, and with the difference, many people don't really understand it, which is, share.
Hmm.
I would say that, so if I give you an analogy, let's say, for example, you want to learn how to ride a bike. Right? So you have options, okay? So you can go ahead, order a bike, own a bike, and then take yourself onto a land field and start, trial and error and get it, fall down, rise up, and I don't know if that's possible and how long it's going to take you to ride a bicycle. But an alternative is that you can look for somebody that already know how to ride a bike. In fact, they have a bike, they take it to work every day. So you see that. You can't ask them and say, oh, hello, sorry, I see that you can ride a bike. I'm learning to ride a bike. Can you help me? Right? And the person can say, oh, yes, why not? I can help you. And they can go with you onto that open space with your bike. And the first day, they can hold the bike for you, use it. In fact, sometimes, people will sit on the bike with you and then they show you how to pedal, how to, maneuver and stuff like that. So that for me, that process is mentoring because you are seeking out somebody that have done what you have done before, what you want to do before, and you are helping them to, help you achieve your own goals. So they're sharing their experiences, they're sharing their, what they've learned along the way with you. And they are solving problem for you by giving you answers straight away. So not that difficult, is it? Now, let's assume that person is a different individual who, in this case, might or might not really know how to ride a bike. It doesn't really matter. But that person is there as a support for you. So it goes with you to the field with your bike and say, actually, why don't you feel the pedal? Why don't you try this way? And they are there when you fall, they can, support you, hold you, put you back, and then you can together, learn how to ride a bike. And they can be asking you, how does it feel? What do you think you need to adjust? Right? Do you think that speed is too much or is too slow? So they don't really tell you what to do, but they are asking you substantial questions that make you think and find the solution by yourself. So that is what a coach does for you. So that's kind of the difference between a mentor and a coach. So in your career, You can look for somebody that is an executive that work the journey that you work to say, oh, I have a problem in this area. I know you've gone through that problem before, and you help me. But if you want a coach, it's a totally different ballgame.
Thank you. And since we are talking about this, why, in your view, is mentoring and coaching important, especially to people who have never explored this?
Right. Um, we said to journey in life as one person might be so difficult.
Hmm.
Life together with other people can make you achieve substantially more than what you yourself can achieve. And as individuals, you have a face, right? The eyes only see forward. Um, what about the things behind you? It's difficult except you get a mirror, right? So you need that mirror. You need
Mm.
a different perspective. Apart from that, you
Absolutely.
also need people to challenge you because the default as human is that when we face a wall or we reach something very hard or challenging, the natural tendency is we want to just run away or hide, right? So, and if you don't have anyone supporting you in spurring you on, or actually challenging you to say, "Oh, I think you can do this," that might be difficult. So, I think we all, in one way or the other, need either of those two if we really want to achieve something great.
Absolutely. Um, and when should we reach out to a mentor or a coach? When is the right time to seek one?
Um, there is really no rule
Hmm.
about it. I would say ideally, if you are in a professional space, you should always have a mentor all the time. They might be formal mentors, they might be informal mentors, but you should always have somebody you're learning from. And it doesn't really necessarily have to be somebody that you meet or know in person. You can learn from somebody through their book, right? You can learn from somebody through a movie, documentaries, but you're learning from somebody that's journey way ahead of you, and you are using them as a mirror, to check your own path and what you need to achieve. So I would say for mentoring, it's just negotiable if you
Yeah.
really want to achieve anything great, right? But for coaching, I think it's a bit different because coaching is a process on its own. It entails a whole lot more than mentoring. So the time to seek a coach is not only when it's negative, not only when you're facing a problem, right, or you're facing a challenge, but anytime you want to make a significant jump, that you need somebody to give you a safe space and a confidential space for you to be able to explore, the pros and cons, the opportunities, the threats, that might be in that journey. So senior leaders know how to do this very well because if they run a product line or they run a business line or want to, go to market, they need that soundboard, not somebody to make the decision for them, but somebody to help nudge them to consider all the angles before they actually make that decision. Well, it can also be, when you're stressed, when you just can't see through the woods, when everything just feel like it's falling apart and you just need to hold yourself, then that's the time to seek for a coach. Because what a coach will offer you is a listening ear. They're trained to listen actively to you, right? And in these days of social media, I would say maybe it's only 0.01% of the world population that are actually listening. Everybody wants to talk. Everybody wants to share their own ideas. Everybody wants to suggest something to you, either to buy or to consider. But that safe space that you know that somebody's actually actively listening to you gives you a different transformation experience
Yes.
for you to make significant decisions. So that's when to seek a coach.
Thank you for that. And another related question that anybody would think is, how do we, because if I'm seeking a mentor or a coach, I'm investing in this journey, in this potential relationship. So how do we ensure that we select a good mentor or a coach and that our sessions are actually effective?
Right. Um, for the mentors, I wouldn't really worry too much about it because before you can name somebody as a mentor, that means you've already seen something that that person has achieved, something that pulls you to that person before you can ask them to mentor you. If there is no value that you can already see, why do you want to, ask them for mentoring anyway? I think that's just very clear, But for coaching, I think it's different. A good coach should be able to propel you to move forward, to take difficult decisions. I won't say there is no bad coach out there. I'm not saying a lot of them, but a good coach will offer you this first session that we call a chemistry session, and they will allow you to explore, that session with them for you to willingly decide whether this is somebody you can work with. So if you go to that first session, you really don't feel any impact. You really can't see that you're being challenged. You can maneuver the coach to wherever you want to go without them, picking that up. And I would say, please look for another coach. But if you go into that first session and you walk out with a whole lot of new insights,
Hmm.
things that you've been running away from. You have not said it in the session, but the coach was able to pick it up. Then, yes, I would say give that coach a chance to help you.
Thank you. And just to sort of clarify for people, this is for people who have never approached a mentor or a coach. Um, a follow-up question from me would be, do you think it's good to have a plan before, like if I'm going for a coaching session or a mentoring session, it's good to have a plan of sort of like the items or the kind of discussion that I would like to have? Because I think sometimes people go with no preparation and may end up talking about the game or the weather for 10 minutes or 15 minutes. So do you think that that preparation is important to sort of, so that it sort of end towards an outcome or something is achieved by the end of it?
Yeah. I mean, the way I would say it is if you have a compass, for example, which a mentor or a coach can be to you, but you have the compass, but you don't have a destination.
Yes.
The
Yes.
compass really cannot help you. I mean, it's like if you're using a Google map and it says to where, it says to nowhere, but nothing is going to happen. So
Yes.
yes, totally, you need to have a plan. You need to know, you might not know it 100% like what's really the root cause
It
of
can
this.
change over time.
Exactly.
Yes.
But you need to know, how you're feeling, what you're feeling, what kind of achievement you are targeting,
Yes.
before you seek out any of those two.
Yes. Really helpful for me. So I'm going to move on to the next question. Uh, do you think, and I think because, we are very conscious of amplifying voices from developing regions and also of change makers who come from difficult backgrounds. They can belong to a marginalized community or a minority or just face financial hardships. Um, do you think there are sufficient opportunities of mentoring and coaching out there?
I would say yes, there are enough, but whether they are spread across different, stratas of however you want to classify on that sort of racial, distribution or age distribution or, professional spectrum. Um, that's open for conversation,
Yes.
depending on where you are, um, and what that environment, looks like. I would say yes, I take your point that, for people with marginalized community, it might be more challenging, for them to access, to good coaches because of the expense, or to good mentors because most of the time when people, become successful, they uproot themselves from the community where they come from and they move to a
Yes.
different community. So it's an intentional to be able to reach out to them. And also, they are being bombarded with a lot of requests, all the time from people that are successful. And so, for people that you term marginalized, it might take a much harder effort for them to be able to get it. But I would say it's not impossible, if you're intentional. You just have to find the right person. You can also use a link to help you, to seek out mentors or coach, whenever you need it.
Thank you. So Femi, I'm going to take a few moments to just amplify our presence on social media and promote our work. So just bear with me for a minute. Hi everyone, I'm Lamona Chanda. I'm one of the co-founders of the Global Activist Network. We're amplifying the voices of change makers from all over the world working on the Sustainable Development Goals. So please support us. We are on all social media platforms. We are on LinkedIn, on Twitter, X, Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, Instagram. Please follow our handles, amplify our message. If you know someone who's doing great work, please encourage that person to write an article about it or even nominate their work so that we can amplify further. Thank you, and stay with us. We're going to ask more questions to our special guest today. Back, Femi. Thank you. Thank you for holding. Um, so now looking at the other aspect of, mentoring and coaching, what do you think are the biggest hurdles in making these opportunities more accessible to everyone?
Um, two kind of standouts. One is the investment of time. Because as a mentor and as a coach, you need to create time for your mentee or for your coachee if that word is acceptable. So the investment of time can be an hurdle at some point because people in their day job as when they're good and successful, they're really busy. So for you to make their time count, just like we said before, they
Yes.
must see you as somebody that is prepared, has a plan, has a target of what you're trying to do. So you are kind of helping them to make their time investment very efficient, for you. Also in the coaching room, most of the time you have to pay a coach. Okay. So that can be an hurdle as well. Except if you work in an organization that is, helpful in providing, that service free of charge for their employee. But if you're not working for that kind of organization, then you have to, on your own, seek out a coach, and definitely they will have to pay. You have to pay for their service. So finance also can be a hurdle, but I
Mhm.
wouldn't say that yes, time finance can be, but it's not impossible, to go over them, if you are intentional. So you just have to be intentional in what you do, seek out people. Yes, you can get some no's initially, but there will always be one yes along the way that you get. So yeah, those two I think stood out. The other thing I would say is when you're not prepared, right? And you take those sessions with levity, right? So it's difficult, to sustain them if
Yes.
you're not very committed, to that. So that also can be an hurdle, in accessing those services.
Thank you. We have already covered my next question in many ways, but I'm going to ask you those questions anyway. How can mentoring and coaching help young people take charge of their development and career? And the same question for people from low and middle income countries.
So it's a kind of tricky question, but I'm going to answer it in a different way, right? So you are responsible for your own career. It's not something that you outsource to a mentor or to a coach. I think fundamentally, a lot of young people or a lot of people get that wrong.
Mm,
They think that when they are employed by an organization, that the organization manages their career for them. It's not true. You can have a manager that is very supportive, that is really looking after you, but that doesn't mean that he or she is responsible for your career. You need to be in the driving seat of your career. Now, if you are able to do that, which is the foundation, then mentoring and coaching should be one of your toolkits that you can use different times to help yourself get ahead, right? So when you're managing your career, naturally for people that are finance savvy here, you do a SWOT analysis of yourself, where you are, what's your strength, what's your weakness, what are the threats around you, what are the opportunities that you can see. So
yes.
then you can identify some pain points that you need to do something about. So that is where you can now decide, do I need a mentor in this area? Or actually, do I need to get myself in a coaching room so
Mm,
that I can deal with it myself? So
yes.
they are toolkits, right? So don't say your coach is responsible for your success. They are not, right? You are responsible. Well, I think that's the point I want to make for that.
So it's taking ownership of one's own success and journey.
Absolutely.
And getting a mentor and a coach would be to enhance that experience and have a better understanding of it. Thank you.
Correct.
Um, please share some examples or case studies from your experience of success stories.
How much time do we have?
We still have enough time.
Okay. So, like I said before, coaching is a process, right? It's just supposed to help you deal with whatever, you know, um, issue or circumstance and deliverable that you have. So maybe a few examples in terms of case study. One of my more recent experience. So
Yes.
this particular person, very young person, but career trajectory is very high. They just got promoted, right? So, but now they need to manage a team.
Mm,
And some of the people in the team are giving them challenges, right? Because obviously they are inexperienced in terms of managing people. That person have a choice, to say, I'm just going to deal with it anyhow I like. I'm going to punish these people for not listening to me or obeying me. But what they did was to come into the coaching room and say, hey, I thought I was good, but I think I'm failing in this area. And we were able to kind of step back and say, okay, what is the root cause? Why are you feeling you cannot manage people? You know, I think one of the challenges that people that transit from being a very successful individual in their role to a very bad manager is because they got to that point because they trust themselves to deliver. They trust themselves to, deliver the results that the organization wants. But now
Yes.
when you transit as a manager, you have to deliver through other people. And it's a different mindset, it's a different psychology, it's a different people skill that you need to develop. So some organizations are very good in preparing people for that stage, but not so many. So if you find yourself in that kind of area, then a coach will help you to identify the skills that you are missing, help you build a toolkit that you can always use for different kind of people within your team. Because everybody, yeah, we are all people, but we behave in different ways. Our motivations are different. What drives career and the way we seek results totally different. So if you as a manager don't understand the dynamics of your team, then it's a disaster waiting to happen. So that's one, case study. Another one, a gentleman, young as well, got a job, but they think that the job is not paying them the kind of salary that they want,
Yes.
and they were looking to just resign and transit into tech,
Mm.
like most people want to do, just become a developer, stuff like that. But somebody just said, "Oh, before you make that jump, why don't you just sit down and coach?" So they came and we started. And we started to explore, okay, what's the dynamics? What are the motivation? What's driving you? If you get the money, what are you going to do? If you move into tech, for example, how will that journey look for you? Have you really researched, how long it's going to take you to actually get to the level where you will be earning the kind of money you think the tech industry is going to offer you? So I was able to challenge, I was able to slow them down a little bit. They were able to go, do a research, and at the end of the day, they came back with a plan. And the plan looked completely different from what they were thinking of doing before. So that
Mm.
is what, a good safe space of coaching will allow you to do. Sometimes it can also help you to make some decisions you're running away from. I think I remember one where they were having issues with their manager in the organization. They were smart and they were thinking, what's the next stage? So they've always been thinking, oh, my manager is a terrible person. My manager doesn't want me to achieve something. My manager, that kind of labeling and, emotive negative words. But when we started to, unravel in the coaching room, I was able to say, okay, let's forget about this manager, for example. Let's put you in their role, right?
Yes.
What do you think, this decision will make you feel? How do you think you're going to react to this, circumstances? So I started challenging them and putting them forward to see, how it can be challenging for a manager where the organization doesn't give them enough room to deliver promotion for people, for example, to deliver, salary increase for people, for example. So it's not all the time looking inward and say, it's about me, everybody cares about me, everybody should live and die for me. You also have to lift up your face and hide and say, what is the hindrance? What's stopping these people from being in my corner? And after the coaching session, they said to me, I've really never thought about that before. I've always seen this person as the root cause of my problem, but now I think I should be, mindful of them. And eventually they said, I don't think what I want is in this organization. and they make a conscious effort to, revamp their CV. We worked on a lot of confidence, interview skills. And today they are in another organization where anytime I get opportunity to speak with them, they are pretty light, they are joyful, they are like, I'm liking it here. So
Absolutely.
it's not
And I'll
depend.
share, thank you for sharing, Femi. And I'll share one little experience from my journey. And you know my journey very well, but I just wanted to add that one element that I experienced when in one of my previous roles, I felt that I was not in the right place, or maybe, it was toxic or whatever. Like it wasn't the best suited place. And even after, because I think it's the way I was thinking or the way I was approaching, even after I've moved on from that place, I spoke to a friend who, I wouldn't say that she knew a lot about it, but she had some idea. And instantly she picked up on the lack of confidence. And I was surprised because I actually told her a good news that I'm moving on from this place that where I wasn't very happy. And she picked up on the lack of confidence and she said, when you join your new place, they're going to sense your energy. So there's a lot that we don't realize that we give away when um I guess I don't know why I mentioned that, but I think it's the reflection aspect and
Yeah.
also looking at situations from different perspectives and also with positivity and also I think objectively, because sometimes I might feel that I'm doing great but maybe I'm not. So yeah, absolutely. All the experiences that you shared are like I can totally relate to all those examples.
And
Um,
that key word that you said,
mm,
reflection,
yes.
that's the essence of coaching,
Mm,
because coaching will make you to reflect.
exactly.
A lot of people are making so much money
Mm,
helping people to do reflectory activity like yoga, meditation, right? So that's the power
mm,
that is in there. I said earlier on that a lot of people are not listening. Everybody is noisy, talking, speaking. You really cannot bring change in that kind of environment,
mm.
right? If you want individual change, transformational change, you need to be able to be quiet and reflect and really dig deep thinking, about things. And that is where, you come up with real change.
I will build on that, Femi, and from our sessions that I've had with you many times, I think our natural inclination is not, we don't like challenges. But it's those challenges that make us think and make us objective. Even today, when I look for feedback, if it's a blanket positive feedback, I don't enjoy it because I don't have takeaways in that feedback. I always look for tell me something where I can grow and improve. So I think that's also something for people who are considering having mentors and coaches. It's important that like challenges because it's going to help you in the future. Uh,
Absolutely.
so moving on, if someone is considering getting a mentor or a coach, what questions should one ask oneself and to the mentor or the coach?
That's a good question. To oneself, I think you need to ask yourself, are you ready for this?
Mm,
Because it has to be intentional. You have to create the time. You have to create a plan. You have to know what you're working towards. You have to be ready and willing to be challenged. I had people in my coaching session crying. That's not pretty, but you have to be vulnerable enough to be able to let things go and go with the process. That's where freedom and change, happens. The question to ask your mentor is, first of all, you have to be prepared
mm,
in approaching them, so which means you've done a bit of study or a bit of understanding who they are, what they offer, how they work, their preferences and things like that. Such that when you're approaching them, you can't say, oh, by the way, I've seen this is what you've done at this point of your career. This is what I really, love about it, about the journey. And this is where I am. And I'm hoping that you'll be able to help me to make that transition or make that shift. So that's the kind of conversation you need to have with your mentor so that they can see that you are not just there to waste their time. You are intentional, you've done your research, and you know what you want. And you are very efficient in that. So you respect their time as well. For a coach, it's a bit different because most of the time they are there to provide a service that you're paying for. So for me, the question to ask is, do they have training? Right? What have been their experiences as a coach? Um, if you talk to them the first time, what's the proportion? Do they do more talking than you? Or you do more talking than them. So you have to gauge it because a coach shouldn't ideally be doing a lot of talking in the room. You should be the one doing that. You should be the one exploring. You should be the one finding answers. You should be the one, driving the car. They should be there just asking you open-ended question and providing that confidential, safe space. So if you don't feel safe in that environment, then that's not a coach to go for.
Thank you. So I have asked you most of the questions. Now it's time to go off script, and we're going to take questions from our audience. We've received some questions priorhand, so I'll ask you one of those questions.
Yeah.
To start with, um, we always listen to success stories, um, and it's easy to get advice from someone who has been successful all throughout. I think it's also helpful to look at journeys where something or an initiative or something didn't work out as we planned, and it happens to all of us. When we fail at something or when something doesn't go as we planned, what should be our approach?
Well, there is something that the coaching process has taught me, which I always try to make my anyone in my coaching room to understand and to do actually is to say there are some things that you can control. You can write a plan, you can, process something, you can talk to somebody about the issue, or you can ask AI to solve the problem for you. There are some things you can control, but there are quite a few you just cannot control.
Yes.
Things that have happened, you cannot go back to the past and unwind them. They've already happened. Yes, they can make you feel terrible, bad, unsatisfied, leave you in a bad space. But the acceptance that something has already happened needs to happen first, right? And then from there, you can start dealing with the emotions around it. Okay. So when something has already happened, I would say accept it first. That thing happened. I mean, one of my recent coaching, um, I just sensed that the person was yet to really, really accept the circumstances that they are facing. And they came into the coaching room trying to solve the problem. And I said, no, 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 no. I'm not hearing that accountability from you, that you recognize and you are owning up to the circumstances you are in. So I'm not going to spend the session trying to work out what the solution is. Let's get you to that point first. And after the session, they told me, I didn't expect this, but this has been really, really what I needed. Right. So I think people need to acknowledge, need to accept, and have peace with that. Then they can start to explore, either resolving the emotions around it or what the next step is needs to be.
Thank you. So we have a few questions from our audience, Femi. Um, from Taibo. Taibo, do you want to do you want to unmute and ask your questions?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much, Lemona. That's a fantastic host. And thank you so much, Mr. Femi Akindeji. I must confess, I admire the way you effortlessly articulate your thoughts.
Thank you, Kyle.
Yeah, thank you very much. So I have about three questions, and I'll quickly run through them. So number one is, I love how you break down the difference between a coach and a mentor. But at that point, I was going to even chip in, but I thought I should. This is a formal setting. So I wanted you to also give us the difference between a mentor, a coach, and a role model. Who is a mentor? Who is a coach? And who is your role model? Because so many people claim they have a role model, so many people claim they have a mentor. So what are the differences between these figures in your life? So number two, can you outgrow your mentor? Is it possible to outgrow your mentor? So that's the number two question. So number three, before I joined this session, I was reading the book Why Nations Fail by Darren and James Robinson. So few of the things that stood out to me was when the writers were comparing Nogales, Arizona with Nogales, Sonora, and the different realities in these two locations, even though they were close. So the fact was that they have very different institutions, and that is the reason why the realities they are experiencing were actually different. So my question is that this is Nigeria, that we have sub-Saharan Africa. There is the UK, there is the US. Those are developed countries, but this is a developing countries, and we even have less developed countries. So I'm always of the opinion that no matter the level of mentorship, at times your environment has a lot to do in the rate at which you can succeed. And according to the book, even that Why Nations Fail, there's a part that the writers claim that an average US citizen is 20 times as prosperous as someone living in sub-Saharan Africa, and even 40 times as prosperous as people living in the less, the poorest of countries. And they mentioned a few countries, which I might not mention here. So what reforms would you recommend maybe for African leaders or for Nigerian leaders especially, because I am a Nigerian, you fortunately are a Nigerian, to put in place effective systems that can help young people to thrive in terms of the academic system, the working system, business systems that can help young people to thrive, so that the effect of mentorship, coaching, role model can truly reflect in their lives. Thank you.
Thank you, Tayo. Those are very difficult questions, especially the last one. But I'll try. So I've already explained the difference between a mentor and a coach. Role model, it's a different concept. And if you look at the word itself, the model, let's say, for example, you walk into a supermarket or a fashion store, you always see a model of something, right? So a model is supposed to be something, someone out there. You might not have a relationship with them, but you can read their story. It's like a picture that you take inspiration from. You remember when I was differentiating, I said even mentoring sometimes doesn't have to be face to face. You don't have to know the person. And I was saying you can read a book. So in that context, you can take that as a role model. To say you can identify an individual that achieved something, but it's not in your climate, it's not in your geography, but you can read a book about them. You can watch a movie about them. You can, have a documentary, see a documentary about them. And through that, you can learn. So that's what a role model is. Sometimes also in your neighborhood, you can have people, maybe like, I don't know about politicians, but some of them are good actually. You can have a role model that is a celebrity because they are most, they are world-class musicians that have really devoted their time, their energy into the sphere of influence that they're operating. So you can study them as role models to see how did this person get to where they get to today. So that's the difference. But a mentor needs that personal connection. You need it's somebody that you need to work with. They need to know you. You need to know them. You need to know what they've achieved that they can help you directly impute into you. And of you as a coach, I mean, you can do online coaching, but still you will have that personal relationship, with your coach. So I think that's the first question. Second question about outgrowing your mentor. Mm, it's because first of all, when I started mentoring people, I had I struggled with the idea of having a lifetime mentor because I feel that that's kind of lazy in itself. That you just have this one person and you think throughout your life they will continue to be your mentor. And I really struggle with it. So when I started like the voluntary initiative that I run for young people, where I train them, on things like vision development, goal setting, we talk about money, we talk about innovation. What I said was a mentor should be transactional for you, which means you need to have a vision board. You need to have a target. And then you need to find somebody that has achieved what you wrote on that vision board. And then go to them and say, tell me how you did that. And the moment they told you how they've done it, you've learned from that and you've achieved that thing, that mentor already becomes qualified for the next stage. Because the next stage, if really you are progressing, should require somebody at a higher level because you should have a more difficult challenge you want to resolve. So for me, mentor should not that you outgrow your mentor, but you kind of need somebody at a higher level to develop you further. That's the way I'm going to say that. Now, yeah, I'm not paid to be given government, advice about reforms. I will first of all say, as a young person growing up in Nigeria, in Ghana, in South Africa, in Pakistan, Syria, wherever, you need to first of all take responsibility for yourself. Line, geography, policy, they are secondary. Your decision to take responsibility for yourself ideally should propel you, first of all, to grow, to mature, to develop capacity. And when you develop capacity, the possibility is that you start to outgrow the environment that you have. And when that starts to happen, people would recognize it. Industry will recognize it. I know people in Nigeria, in West Africa, in other parts, that even though they live there, they are adding value to institutions in the West, in the US, in Canada, the UK, because they've decided not to be bound or not to be constrained by where they live. They've equipped themselves, they've gone through best practice, knowledge, certification, and experience. And then people can seek them because actually they are cheaper for those people anyway. But they can offer value-driven services across the globe. Where the world is going, I'm telling you, it won't really matter where you live or what your government is doing in terms of policy. Because if you have what people need wherever in the world, they will seek after you. I mean, the two times I've transited back into the UK, it's yeah, it's challenging, but kind of the job is always there for me to be able to transit without maximum, gap in there. And that's because anytime I find myself, I'm always looking up what's the next stage? What do I need to do? What do I need to add to myself? What training do I need to, do? Who do I need to network with? What do I need to read? What do I need to learn? YouTube is so full of information that you can just learn anything, that you choose to. And by the time you start to practice it, people will start to notice. And then that value, I call it a value driven journey. That value will start to drive you to, if you need to leave your country, it will be very clear, because the opportunities will just be there. But having said that, if I have to say, okay, what reform needs to happen, I would just say, forget about the reform, just care about the people. Right. So if we have government that really, really care about the people, now they will not be mortgaging the future because of the convenience and the enrichment of today. So in the climate where things work, they have a 30-year plan, they have a 20-year plan, they have a 10-year plan. And irrespective of the government that comes or the political party that comes, the core of the institution, the core of those climate, they don't change. Yeah, the way they get about to achieve it might change, but the fundamentals are constant all through. If they believe in free speech, if they believe in fair treatment for everyone, if they believe in respect, those values don't change, irrespective of whether it's black, white, or red or orange political party. But I think in our time, it's totally different because the value and experience, which influences reform, is not static. So when new people come, it's like you're starting all over again. You're trying to understand what they will do or what they will not do. And I don't think that's right. So if we get to that point where we make people in power or authority to actually care, I think we will make a whole lot of progress.
Thank you so much, Femi, for sharing your insights, and I hope that answers Taiwo's questions. I forgot to mention that Taiwo is one of us, and he manages our social media work and all the fabulous stories of our change makers. Thank you so much, Femi. Um, Last question. What are your final words? And I don't want to open a floodgate of requests, but if someone wanted to reach out to you for for mentorship or coaching, how would we reach you?
Well, I'll start with the second question first. To reach me, I think it's easiest on LinkedIn. I don't personally do a lot of social media. My WhatsApp is well guarded, only for people I need to talk to. But LinkedIn, if you send me a connection, then definitely I will respond to you. However, for mentoring, I don't see myself as the only person that can mentor people. In fact, in my program that I just shared, I have about 20 other people that I've asked to mentor someone, right? Because you have to look at, okay, where does this person wants to go? If I don't personally have that experience, why should I mentor them? I mean, I can share like, some fundamental values with them. But in terms of specifics, like if somebody wants to be a top, AI developer, I'm not really sure I can help them. But what I can do is to find someone within my network that is able to help them. That's the way I've been running, the voluntary mentoring that I'm doing. So people need to reach out, it's fine, but not be fixed as to who needs to give them that that mentoring. And did you ask about my last word as well?
Yes, your final words.
My final
Hopefully,
word.
hopefully final words for today's session. We would want you back many more times, but final words for today's session.
Thank you, Lemon. I think I've enjoyed this conversation. I'm surprised Uh, really, really good. My final one would be that just be responsible, own your career yourself, be in the driving seat. I think that's very important. I mean, the moment I realized that, I can trace, the trajectory of my career from there, how it's really ramped up, how even when things happen, I go back and say, all right, this has happened, it's fine, it's not what I expect. What am I going to do next? So I'm not waiting for somebody to, you give me pep talk or, say, oh, everybody in the world is bad, oh, this company is, everybody has the right to make their own decision, control that. But the what you can't control is the direction I want to go, is how I want to equip myself to make sure that I'm valuable not only to one employer, but to three, four, five, six, get them to compete in having me. So when you're in that space, then you are fine. And that I think that's my last word. Be a value-driven person. I think there's a quote that I use in my mentoring program. I think it's from Albert Einstein, if I remember very well. And he says that you should try not to be a person of success, but you should be, but you should try to be a person of value.
Mm.
Because if success is the end goal, you will achieve level one success, and you think that's it. Well, that's not correct. If you're a person of value that keeps adding, you discover that level one success will become like you have not really achieved anything. You get to level two, and they say the sky is the limit. If that's correct, I don't know, because there is something beyond the sky. now the rockets are making us to realize now. So I think that I'll leave it there. The message is just be responsible, own up, to your career.
Thank you so much, Femi. Thank you for making time and sharing your experiences and sharing your insights. We loved having you here. And like I said, we would like you to be back many more times. We will share our recording through our social media channels for people who missed our live conversation. And I would like to thank everyone for joining. Have a nice Saturday.
Thank you, Lemona. Well done.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.